It's unusual to talk about a piece that we're not performing in the title of the concert. Where did the idea to perform works that inspired and were reused by Bach in his B minor Mass, but not perform the Mass itself, come from?
Well, I suppose it's because the B minor Mass is an unusual work for Bach. It's one of his finest works indeed. John Buck, the Bach scholar, described it as arguably Bach's greatest single work. And I think I'd agree with that. So, and it's a work that Bach collected together in a period of over 2 decades, so that the earliest bit of the Mass is the Sanctus, which was written originally for Christmas Day 1724, and then some of the last music of the piece, the final movement and from the Creed onwards really, were collected quite late in Bach's career. But it's a piece that was never performed in Bach's lifetime, and indeed it looks as if Bach was aware that it was never going to be performed as a whole work, but that he wanted to collect it together as a kind of abstract exercise, in the same way that some of his late works like the Art of Fugue were collected together. So it's an unusual piece. And scholars have talked for a long time about how much of the music is borrowed from earlier works, and many of the movements derive from earlier works. But you don't normally hear these earlier works and the cantatas that they're drawn from. So I had the idea really of looking at some of the sources for that material and seeing, well, what are they like in their original context? So we've put together the programme, which has 3 of the cantatas, which have movements which are drawn later on in this part of the B minor Mass, and also one of the short Lutheran Masses, which doesn't actually have musical material that was used later on, but formed a model for Mass settings, because in the Lutheran Church, they normally use just the Kyrie and Gloria as part of the service. So it's looking at different ways that Bach drew on his earlier experience to put together the B minor Mass.
Great. And am I right in thinking we've done a similar programme to this before as
Yes,
Bach Choir?
we have. We did this way back in 1997. And because I think they're splendid pieces, the cantatas that we're doing, it seemed about time that we revived them. I don't think they've been performed in Newcastle, and possibly not indeed much in the Northeast at all since we last did them.
Oh, fantastic.